Questions orales, oral questions. The honourable member for Simcoe Grey.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the new Liberal plan to fight ISIS, there's sure a lot of people hearing about it. It's too bad, though, that this group doesn't include anyone in this House. Yesterday, the Foreign Affairs Minister told the House that he'd shared the plan in a meeting in Rome. Overnight, details of the plan were actually revealed all over the media. This government claims to be transparent and open in a new reality. Why is it then that no one in this House has been informed of this plan, not even the rookie new Minister of Defence?
Honorable Ministre des Affaires étrangères.
Mr. Speaker, the plan will be released in due course, but in the meantime, it's important to see that this plan will be comprehensive, it will be integrated, it will be sustained, it will be a plan that will bring together all the Canadian forces, military, humanitarian, diplomatic, and it will be done in concordance with our allies, the coalition, to be sure that Canada will be more effective than ever in its fight against this awful terrorist group, ISIL.
The member for Simcoe Grey.
Monsieur le Président, le gouvernement est venu faire croire que si nous voulons offrir de la formation et de l'aide militaire, le Canada ne peut pas mener du combat aérien. Mais c'est notre choix malhonnête. Depuis un an, les forces canadiennes et toutes ces choses, formation, mission aérienne, aide humanitaire, elles le font très bien. Pourquoi le gouvernement veut-il imposer du force limitée à la lutte canadienne contre le terrorisme?
Honorable ministre des Transports.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Et comme mon collègue, le ministre des Affaires étrangères l'a clairement dit, nous avons pris la décision de contribuer fortement à la coalition pour défaire l'État islamique, mais nous le ferons d'une façon intégrée et compréhensive. Et quand le plan sera prêt, il sera supporté par les Canadiens. Merci.
Honourable member for Simcoe Grey.
Mr. Speaker, in 2014, UNRWA schools and hospitals were used by Hamas terrorists to throw rockets. In fact, their staff even gave Hamas these same rockets back. That's just one of the reasons why the Conservatives proudly defunded UNRWA. Now, as part of a plan to fight ISIS, the government is proudly providing $15 million to this organization. By including this funding as part of an anti-ISIS plan, is the Liberal government saying that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a root cause of the rise of ISIS? Does the minister believe this is actually the case? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of speculations here and there about what will be the plan. But the plan will be there to fight a terrorist group. The plan will be there to support our allies, including Israel. The plan will be there to support all these populations that are all together to fight terrorism and count on Canada and our own allies. And this plan will be more effective than ever.
L'honorable député de Chambre, Haute-Saint-Charles.
Monsieur le Président, cette semaine, le ministre de la Défense est incapable de parler du plan et pour combattre l'État islamique. On a appris pourquoi. Le ministre des Affaires étrangères était à Rome pour présenter le plan à la coalition internationale. Le ministre de la Défense n'était même pas dans le coup. Monsieur le Président, pourquoi le premier ministre cache son plan aux Canadiens et par le fait même à son ministre de la Défense?
Honorable ministre des Affaires étrangères.
Monsieur le Président, c'est les conservateurs qui ne sont pas dans le coup. C'est eux qui comprennent pas. En fait, le ministre de la Défense est un grand ministre de la Défense et il va le prouver, il l'a prouvé dans le passé et il va le prouver encore. C'est un honneur pour moi d'avoir travaillé avec lui sur ce plan et avec la ministre du Développement international. On a travaillé la main dans la main et avec nos alliés pour combattre un groupe terroriste affreux et on va le faire avec plus d'efficacité que jamais, justement parce que nous avons travaillé ensemble, Monsieur le Président.
Honorable député de Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles.
Monsieur le ministre des Affaires étrangères, vous dites que le ministre de la Défense est un grand ministre de la Défense. Par contre, on voit que là, c'est vous actuellement qui préparez le plan. Après nous avoir dit que la menace terroriste était due au changement climatique, on apprend maintenant que le plan du gouvernement aura un impact touchant le conflit israélo-palestinien. Monsieur le Président, il faut arrêter de chercher de midi à 14 heures. Quand tu es confronté à une menace terroriste, il faut que tu t'attaques aux terroristes. Monsieur le Président, quand vont-ils le faire?
Je rappelle à mon honorable collègue de Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles de parler, de rédiger ses commentaires au président. Et quand il dit « vous », c'est moi, et la traduction ne fonctionne pas. That's what I'm saying. Alors, je dois continuer en français jusqu'à ce que ça fonctionne, et on verra si ça commence à fonctionner. Ça fonctionne maintenant. OK. L'honorable ministre des Affaires étrangères.
Monsieur le Président, je comprends l'impatience de mon collègue. C'est tout à fait approprié de vouloir voir un plan encore meilleur que celui que le Canada a eu, et c'est ce qu'il aura. Il va être impressionné, et les Canadiens le seront. Il le dira peut-être pas pour des raisons politiques, mais secrètement, il le sera, Monsieur le Président.
L'honorable député d'Hochelaga.
Monsieur le Président, pendant la campagne électorale, les libéraux ont promis de renouveler les ententes à long terme sur le logement social. Si ces ententes ne sont pas reconduites, 365 000 logements sociaux seront en péril. Cette année seulement, si rien n'est fait, 24 000 ménages perdront leur subvention au logement. Le bien-être de milliers de citoyens est en jeu. Qu'attend le ministre pour signer de nouvelles ententes et rassurer les familles à faible revenu?
L'honorable ministre des Transports.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et je remercie ma collègue pour sa question, et je sais qu'elle travaille très fort du côté du logement social. Et j'aimerais ajouter que, bien sûr, durant l'élection, notre parti a promis d'investir de façon très, très importante dans l'infrastructure sociale. Et l'infrastructure sociale, c'est non seulement le logement abordable, c'est également le logement social. On sait qu'il y a un besoin pressant non seulement de bâtir de nouveaux logements sociaux, mais aussi de réhabiliter ceux qui existent présentement. Merci.
L'honorable député d'Hochelaga.
We're facing a crisis situation in affordable housing. Canadians want action, not vague assurances with no clear commitments. Hundreds of thousands of Canadians risk losing their homes if the funding of the long-term agreements is not renewed. People are waiting 10 years for social housing. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities has identified housing as one of the most important issues facing cities of all sizes. So will the government sign new long-term agreements and start the money flowing for affordable housing immediately?
The Minister of Transport.
Encore une fois, merci pour la question. Comme nous l'avons dit très, très clairement, et c'est mon collègue qui est assis à côté de moi qui en est responsable, nous ferons un investissement massif de 20 milliards de dollars sur 10 ans dans les infrastructures sociales. Et ça inclut les logements abordables, les logements sociaux. Dans la ville où j'ai ma circonscription, je sais qu'il y a une liste d'attente de 23 000 familles pour les logements sociaux. Le besoin est pressant. Nous avons promis durant l'élection de nous y adresser et c'est ce qu'on fera.
L'honorable député de Beloeil-Chambly.
Monsieur le Président, les belles paroles ne vont pas régler ce besoin pressant auquel le ministre fait allusion. But, Mr. Speaker, housing is not the only challenge that municipalities are facing. After years of downloading costs under the previous government, communities are facing crumbling bridges, roads, and water systems. And mayors are here in Ottawa, and they're asking for help. Now is not the time for action. Now is the time for action, rather. Not more rhetoric and empty platitudes. There's $9 billion that's been promised but not spent. Will the government remove all the conservative restrictions on funding and finally get these investments into our communities and get us some action?
The Minister for Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the question from my honourable colleague, and I absolutely agree that we need to invest in all types of infrastructure, including social infrastructure, including public transit, including upgrading our old drainage systems. That's why I had such a productive meeting with mayors from across the country yesterday. I'm engaging with my provincial counterparts because we understand the importance of building infrastructure to create jobs, to build strong, sustainable communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Honorable député de Beloeil-Chambly.
Monsieur le Président, sur un autre sujet, et un sujet difficile, la tragédie de Lac-Mégantic est toujours présente dans notre esprit collectif. Ce fatidique 6 juillet 2013 où 47 personnes sont décédées. Plus de 2 ans plus tard, la communauté est encore affectée. 2 résidents sur 3 ayant des symptômes post-traumatiques. Les gens de Lac-Mégantic ont besoin de répit et surtout, ils ne veulent plus de trains qui passent en plein centre-ville. Est-ce que le ministre peut s'engager aujourd'hui à construire une voie de contournement, oui ou non?
Bravo.
Honorable ministre des Transports.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'ai eu l'occasion de visiter Lac-Mégantic samedi dernier. Je sais et je comprends très bien le moment très difficile que vivent les citoyens de Lac-Mégantic. Ils ont passé à travers un moment extrêmement difficile et nous comprenons maintenant que ça prend du temps pour rebâtir. Et nous serons là pour les aider à rebâtir leur vie, leur communauté, leur ville. Et en ce moment, il y a une étude sur la possibilité d'une voie de contournement. On va attendre les résultats avant de se prononcer. Merci.
The honourable member for Brantford-Brant.
Mr. Speaker, a simple question for the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. No need for talking points. I'm just seeking some technical clarification for the members of this House. How does the Finance Department come up with the numbers posted on the monthly fiscal monitor?
The honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague. I will use my speaking powers just like he did. The only people, Mr. Speaker, who believes that the previous Conservative left behind a surplus are the Conservative themselves, Mr. Speaker. Canadians know better. Mr. Speaker, make no mistake, the Government of Canada will post a deficit for the period of 2015-2016, Mr. Speaker. And that deficit, Mr. Speaker, rests squarely on the shoulders of the actions and inactions taken by the previous government. Mr. Speaker, that's a fact. The previous Liberal government left behind a $13 billion...
Member for Brantford-Brant.
Mr. Speaker, that answer either means that Liberals either don't know how the Finance Department does its financial reporting, or they don't want Canadians to know. In either case, it's very troubling. The Finance Minister has inaccurately and repeatedly stated, and I quote, "We inherited a deficit." But his own department said they inherited a $1 billion surplus. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know they inherited a surplus. Liberals in the House yesterday confirmed we left them a surplus. Why is the Finance Minister the only one in Canada who doesn't know?
The honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to say that it's only my honourable colleagues who believe that. You know, what the previous Liberal government did is to leave behind a $13 billion surplus in 2006. The Conservative government, Mr. Speaker, squandered that surplus and accumulated $150 billion of additional debt. Mr. Speaker, we have a plan to grow the economy in this country, invest in our community, invest in our middle class, invest in infrastructure. That's what we were elected upon. That's what we're going to deliver.
The honourable member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, the offer to purchase Great Lakes Power by recently privatized Hydro One has Ontario electricity consumers, who already pay the highest rates in North America, worried that rates will go up even higher. If allowed, one company will have control 98% of the total transmission in Ontario. What plans does the FedNor Minister have to conduct open public consultations and public hearings as part of the Competition Act review for this transaction?
The honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Economic Development.
I'd like to thank the honourable member for her question, Mr. Speaker. As you know, any transaction that goes on that is subject to the Canadian law, la loi sur la concurrence. Et cette loi confère au Bureau de la concurrence le mandat d'examiner toutes les transactions. Et comme elle sait bien que ce processus est très rigoureux, et comme elle sait bien, le Bureau de la concurrence mène ses examens en toute indépendance. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
The honourable member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, Hydro One will continue to gouge customers, especially seniors, while Brookfield, the parent company of Great Lakes Power, rakes in record profits on the backs of those on fixed incomes. Will the FedNor Minister commit today to launch an inquiry into Ontario electricity rates before more companies like Algoma Steel have to file for bankruptcy protection and even more jobs in Ontario are lost?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, we will allow the Competition Bureau to do its work. As you know, it does its work independently of government, and of course, it will do its work in a very rigorous manner, and we will wait for those results.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Speaker, Canada is an energy-rich nation, yet Eastern Canadian refineries import 86% of their oil from countries like Saudi Arabia, a regime where people are sentenced to beheading for political dissent, where women aren't legally able to drive, and Nigeria, where rampant corruption has led to targeted oil bombings and irreversible environmental devastation. Mr. Speaker, why doesn't the minister get behind Energy East, world-leading Canadian oil, and Canadian jobs?
Good question.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, in the 21st century, the only way to get big projects like pipelines built is to do them responsibly and sustainably. That's the hard lesson that we learned from the failed approach of the members opposite, who for 10 years were unable to deliver for the province of Alberta and unable to get resources.
Order. I know the member for Calgary Signal Hill is enjoying this today, but we all have to restrain ourselves. We want to hear the answer to the question. The Minister for Transport has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to finish off, we firmly believe that a clean environment and a strong economy go hand in hand. And that is the job of government, to get our resources to international markets. Only by engaging Canadians, conducting deeper consultations with Indigenous people, are we going to get there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, Alberta lost nearly 22,000 full-time jobs last month. Meanwhile, the anti-energy Prime Minister spent the last 2 days there posing for photo ops without actually meeting with workers in the field. He should come to Lakeland. When asked if his government would support the Energy East pipeline if it passes through the NEB process, he wouldn't give a straight answer. We've heard enough empty promises and meaningless platitudes. Mr. Speaker, why is the Prime Minister always finding new ways to say no to good-paying, blue-collar Canadian jobs?
Another good question.
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, we know that the only party in this House that has failed Albertans is the Conservative Party. They coasted through 10 years of high oil prices and just couldn't deliver. Yes. We are going to deliver, but we're going to do it by taking into account the fact that we can develop our economy while being respectful of our environment. That is the approach we're taking, an intelligent, scientifically based approach. That is the proper approach for this government to take.
The Honourable Member for Esquimalt Saanich Soup.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On page 71 of their platform, the Liberals promised if they became the government, they would, quote, end Canada's combat mission in Iraq. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, not only has the government failed to end the bombing missions, they refuse to tell this House what their plan is and whether they're actually planning to extend the military mission. Canadians deserve answers, and Canadians deserve to have their say. Will the government commit now to hold a debate and vote on our military's future role in Iraq and Syria? Yes or no?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to remind the Honourable Member that there was an election. And in the election, the Prime Minister's position was very clear. The position of the former Prime Minister was very clear, and Canadians made a very clear choice. And the very clear choice was to give this government a mandate to refashion that mission, which all of the ministers and the Prime Minister are engaged in, and will refashion it to an acceptable mission that is acceptable to Canadians. And that will be produced in due course.
L'honorable député de Laurier-Sainte-Marie.
Monsieur le Président, la mission de bombardement contre le groupe armé État islamique initiée par les conservateurs prend fin dans quelques semaines à peine. Mais le gouvernement n'a toujours pas annoncé son plan pour la suite des choses et nous envoie des messages contradictoires. Et le gouvernement n'est même pas capable de répondre à une question fondamentale et très simple que j'adresse au ministre de la Défense. Est-ce que la nouvelle mission fera l'objet, comme il se doit, d'un débat et d'un vote en Chambre? Oui ou non?
Bravo. L'honorable ministre des Affaires étrangères.
Monsieur le Président, ça me fera très plaisir de discuter avec ma collègue du plan lorsqu'il sera rendu public. Je crois qu'en tant que Canadien, on sera fiers de la contribution de notre pays pour lutter contre le terrorisme. Nous le ferons avec bravoure et avec un plan qui aura été intégré, qui met en place tous les éléments pour la réussite, avec le ministre de la Défense, la ministre du Développement international, le Premier ministre. Et puis moi, je vais essayer de faire ma part, Monsieur le Président.
The honourable member for Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, this morning the jobs report was released, and it doesn't look good for anyone under this Liberal government. 22,000 full-time jobs were lost in Alberta in January alone. Our unemployment rate in Alberta has reached 7.4%. The highest, it's been the highest since 1988. The first time since 1988, it's been higher than the Canadian average.
Unbelievable.
And things are only going to get worse. It's predicted that Alberta's unemployment rate will exceed 8% by the end of 2016. The Liberals' No Energy program is killing Alberta.
Yes.
When will the Minister of Employment finally come up with a strategy that's going to help Alberta's unemployed get back to work?
The Minister of Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the members of the House know, we have been working on modernizing the EI system to try and respond to those very people that are losing their job because of this crisis in the natural resource sector. The best opportunity for unemployment is actually...
Order. It's Friday. We're looking forward to getting home. Let's listen up so we can get through this. Let's all pay attention and show respect for each other. The member for Employment has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I couldn't hear myself think. It was so noisy on the other side. Mr. Speaker, the best opportunity that we have to take care of unemployed people is a robust economy, and that's exactly what we're going to do with the infrastructure investments that will be rolling out very, very soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
The member for Lethbridge.
Mr. Speaker, January through March is the peak season in the oil patch, but instead of working hard to provide for their families, Western Canadians are now contemplating what they're going to do when their EI benefits run out. Yesterday, the Prime Minister refused to commit to anything until his anti-energy budget comes down. But the crisis is now, and action is needed immediately. So, Mr. Speaker, I have to ask, is the Prime Minister refusing simply to acknowledge that there is a need, or is he just absolutely unaware of it?
Yeah. The Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, our Prime Minister is very much aware of it. That's why he was in Alberta for 2 days this week. He's also aware that there are challenges in Saskatchewan and Newfoundland and Labrador as well. But when he met with the Premier of Alberta, he undertook to fast-track $700 million worth of infrastructure. That is showing an understanding. He also said that Alberta would be eligible for the fiscal stabilization fund that is available when a province goes through a particular difficulty due to the lowering of the oil price. So we do care, and we are taking action right now.
The honourable member for Peace River Westlock.
Mr. Speaker, as a deputy critic for rural affairs, I'm concerned with the direction this government is going. Instead of standing up and supporting all Canadians, this government is pitting rural communities against urban centres. They are signaling infrastructure funds are to be spent entirely in big cities. Sure. Rural Canada is the backbone of our nation. The energy used to heat our homes, the wood used to build our houses, and the food we all eat is produced in rural Canada. Will the infrastructure minister please explain why his priorities seem to leave rural Canada in the cold?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, unlike the previous government, we're going to live up to the commitment that we made to all Canadians, regardless where they live. We have committed to invest in public transit. We have committed to invest $20 billion in social infrastructure. We have committed to invest $20 billion in green infrastructure. All communities are going to benefit from those investments, Mr. Speaker, regardless where they live.
Good. The honourable member for Calgary Signal Hill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we'll see if the government can live up to this commitment. During the election campaign, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised that we would have a slight budget deficit over the next couple of years to fund infrastructure, but then by the end of the mandate in 2019, the budget would be balanced, Mr. Speaker. However, standing in this House the other day, the Minister of Finance, Mr. Speaker, said We will work towards a balanced budget by the end of our mandate, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask the Minister of Finance, is this another in the string of broken promises of this government, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable comment to
Mr.
Secretary
Speaker,
to
allow me
Minister
to
of
have a
Finance.
smile when I look at the honourable member. The government, the previous government, who left us with $150 billion deficit, additional debt to our country. Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to invest and grow our economy, but we will follow three key principles. That's what we said during the campaign. That's what we'll do. We'll continue to have a debt-to-GDP ratio on a downward track. We'll be fiscally prudent in how we invest our money, and we'll get back to a balanced budget by the end of our term. That's what we said. That's what we're going to do.
Honourable member for Elmwood, Transcona.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister promised to restore good faith with Canada's public service. And while the Liberals have brought real change to the rhetoric of government, we're waiting for real change on the actions of government. The new government promised to repeal the Conservatives' sick leave legislation, but then they showed up this week at the bargaining table, and you know what they put on the table? The exact same Conservative offer, Mr. Speaker. It was good. So we're wondering, when are the Liberals going to bring a deal to the table? When are the Liberals going to bring a deal to the table that reflects their promises in the election?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, our government is working hard to re-establish a culture of respect for Canada's fine public service. We will negotiate in good faith with our public service, and we will respect the independence of those negotiations. Unlike the Conservatives, we will not toxify those negotiations by attacking the public service on a continual basis gratuitously. There is an opportunity to modernize sick leave benefits in a way that's fair to members of the public service in a time when we inherited a tough fiscal situation from the previous government.
député de Rimouski, Négette et Muscatine-les-Basques.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Les nouvelles aujourd'hui concernant l'emploi ne sont pas bonnes. Le taux de chômage est à la hausse. 1,3 million de Canadiens sont sans emploi. Et que fait le gouvernement? Il retarde ses promesses électorales et met les gens en garde que bien des promesses devront attendre. La ministre de l'Emploi elle-même dit que la plupart des modifications pour l'assurance-emploi seront faites en 2017. Mais pour les abattants en chômage et en fait l'ensemble des Canadiens, les besoins sont maintenant. Les Canadiens ont élu ce gouvernement en pensant qu'il ferait les choses différemment. Quand est-ce que ce gouvernement va se mettre au travail, rassurer les Canadiens et respecter ses engagements?
Bravo. The Honourable Minister for Employment.
Speaker, we have been working since the day that we got elected on fulfilling the promises that we made. We want a system of EI that's going to be there when people need it and where they need it. We promised to lower premiums, cut benefit, wait times from 2 weeks to 1 week, and improve flexibility for Canadians. Those are all measures that we are working on diligently, and we will be rolling out as soon as possible.
The Honourable Member for Fredericton.
Mr. Speaker, les Canadiens connaissent l'importance de l'industrie audiovisuelle à notre économie, ainsi qu'à la promotion des arts et de la culture à travers le pays. Yesterday, the Minister of Canadian Heritage signed an audiovisual co-production treaty with the Ambassador of Ireland to Canada. Est-ce que le ministre peut-elle expliquer comment ce traité va bénéficier l'industrie audiovisuelle canadienne?
Honorable ministre du Patrimoine canadien.
Merci à mon honorable collègue pour sa question. Alors, je suis très fière d'annoncer au nom du gouvernement que nous avons signé hier un premier traité de coproduction audiovisuelle avec l'Irlande et le tout s'inscrit dans un contexte où nous avons de bonnes nouvelles. Nous avons les films Room et Brooklyn qui sont présentement en nomination aux Oscars, qui sont des coproductions canado-irlandaises. Alors, le nouveau traité, en fait, de Canada-Irlande en matière de coproduction audiovisuelle va permettre vraiment de s'adapter aux nouvelles technologies et, à terme, de développer davantage de relations commerciales et culturelles avec l'Irlande. Thank you so much.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this government wants to eliminate mandatory minimums for repeat and violent offenders. And now the Minister of Public Safety has said that the government wants to make it easier to hand out pardons to convicted criminals. So, Mr. Speaker, are there any criminals out there that this government doesn't want to go easy on?
Good question. Mr. Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the honourable member for that question. We believe that mandatory minimum should be the exception and not the rule, and that's the reason we are conducting a complete and comprehensive review of the changes to sentencing and the changes to parole that were brought in under the previous government. The most serious offences should have the most serious sentences. However, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and a comprehensive review of the criminal code is necessary, and that's what we are undertaking. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Public Safety characterized changes brought in by the previous Conservative government to prevent child sexual predators from ever receiving a pardon as ideological. Mr. Speaker, will anyone on the government side stand up and tell the victims of child sexual abuse what is ideological about ensuring that those who commit the most heinous crimes against children never again be able to walk our streets and communities in anonymity?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, the criminal justice system in this country is about more than retribution. There are other elements that are important in sentencing. The most serious crimes should attract the most serious sentences. There is a place for mandatory minimums in our criminal justice system, but it isn't everywhere. That's the reason why we are undertaking a comprehensive review. We are going to ensure that judges' hands are not tied and that mandatory minimums are there for the most serious offences, like the ones that the member just referred to. Thank you.
The honourable member for Cypress Hills Grasslands.
Mr. Speaker, this government seems completely unable to protect Canadians. The Chinese government wants to cut a free trade deal with us. While we welcome investment and trade, we expect our partners to respect the basic standards of justice and law. Kevin Garrett and his wife have been confined and harassed by Chinese security officials for over a year. Now Kevin is facing phony espionage charges. What is this government doing to secure Kevin and Julia Garrett's release? And will they put the Chinese government on a notice that this treatment is completely unacceptable?
Good question. The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it's a very serious situation. We're very preoccupied by that. We have communicated how much we disagree with the situation for Mr. Garrett and his wife to the Chinese authority. We'll continue to do so, and it's something that this government does not accept at all.
Right.
The honourable member for Cypress Hills Grasslands.
Mr. Speaker, it's not only faith groups across Canada that have expressed support for the important work of the Office of Religious Freedom. When Michael Ignatieff was asked about the office, he said, "This is the very thing that should have the support of all sides in politics, and all Canadians believe in the importance of defending religious freedom at home, but also defending religious freedom abroad." And he said that the defense of religious freedom is unconditional. So I want to ask the government, in spite of all of these voices, why is this government so determined to destroy the mandate of the Office of Religious Freedom?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Monsieur le Président, la question est souvent posée en anglais. Je vais cette fois-ci répondre en français, mais ça sera toujours la même réponse. Bien sûr qu'il faut tout à fait faire en sorte qu'on protège la liberté de religion. Et c'est ce que nous allons faire. Et le travail qui a été fait, on va l'améliorer. C'est ça l'objectif. Ce n'est pas de nier le travail qui a été fait, c'est de l'améliorer. Et nous croyons que les droits ne sont jamais mieux défendus que quand ils sont défendus ensemble, de façon intégrée et indivisible et interdépendante. Ça sera l'approche que nous aurons, Monsieur le Président. Bravo.
The honourable member for Kootenay, Columbia.
Mr. Speaker, the NDP supports giving all Canadians the opportunity to enjoy our natural and cultural heritage. We welcome the promise of free admission to our national parks in 2017. But, Mr. Speaker, user fees are also a major source of revenue, and Canadians are worried about the serious funding crisis facing our national parks. Conservatives cut staffing, slashed Parks Canada's budget, and put our parks' ecology and infrastructure at risk. So will the minister restore the Conservative cuts to Parks Canada and offset this revenue shortfall?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would say that I'd like to confirm that we are committed to significant spending in terms of our national parks and our historic sites. That is part of my mandate. We will make sure that we have the funds necessary to continue to meet the mandate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable député de Jonquière.
Monsieur le Président, la traite des personnes est un phénomène bien réel chez nous. En 2015, à Laval seulement, 33 mineurs fougueuses ont été exploitées sexuellement. Il faut de la prévention, mais beaucoup de ressources sur le terrain également. Mais une chose qu'on peut faire maintenant, ici, c'est de mettre en œuvre le projet de loi de Maria Mourani adopté dans cette Chambre l'année dernière. Cette loi punirait plus sévèrement les exploiteurs de nos filles. Le gouvernement peut-il nous dire s'il va fixer rapidement une date pour mettre en œuvre ce projet de loi? Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Minister for the Status of Women.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for her concern and obvious work on the issue of violence against women and girls. Preventing and addressing violence against women and girls is a priority for this government, and we're working with a range of key stakeholders to address this issue, including the launch of a national inquiry, public inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, developing a federal gender violence strategy, and enhancing Canada's network of shelters and transition homes. We're confident that this range of actions will reduce violence and end this scourge against our society. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal House Leader wrote intimidating letters to members of the IRB. Letters referring and urging these well-respected judges to step down. There are no indications that these humble public servants haven't been doing their jobs effectively. Why did the Prime Minister and the Liberal House Leader feel that they had the right to interfere by pressuring them to leave their positions?
The Honourable Financial Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And let's be very, very clear. The scandal is not on this side of the House. The scandal is on that side of the House, Mr. Speaker. The facts are, in fact, clear. The previous government made serious appointments that took effect after they lost the election, Mr. Speaker. It's time they look in a mirror, and that's where they will see the scandal resides, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Lévis-Lobinière.
Monsieur le Président, toute la semaine, le leader parlementaire du Parti libéral n'a pas été capable de défendre son ingérence politique. L'indépendance des juges est fondamentale et il n'a pas le droit de se servir de son poste pour les intimider. Ces juges et les membres des tribunaux rendent des décisions sur des affaires entre l'État et les Canadiens. Ce gouvernement peut-il expliquer pourquoi, qu'après seulement 3 mois, les règles d'éthique ont déjà pris le bord?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I had indicated, it needs to be repeated once again for the members. At the end of the day, there were questionable appointments that were made by the former Conservative government. Mr. Speaker, Canadians understand that the former Prime Minister stepped outside of the box in making those appointments, and quite frankly, they're the ones that should be ashamed of themselves for their behavior, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Lévis-Lobinière.
Monsieur le Président, hier, le ministre de l'Immigration a confirmé dans leur fonction des membres de la Commission de l'immigration et du statut de réfugié du Canada. Le ministre s'est rendu à l'évidence que ces nominations avaient été faites au mérite. Est-ce que le leader parlementaire du gouvernement pourrait prendre acte du geste de son collègue et enfin mettre un terme à son inutile chasse aux sorcières ou va-t-il simplement poursuivre son ingérence politique?
Honorable ministre des Transports.
Comme on l'a dit bien des fois, Monsieur le Président, le processus de nomination doit être respecté. Et on sait très bien qu'un grand nombre de nominations ont été faites par le premier ministre du gouvernement précédent à la dernière heure avant les élections et leur nomination prend effet maintenant. Ce n'est pas la façon que les choses devraient être faites. C'est le nouveau gouvernement qui devra avoir toute la latitude pour faire ses propres nominations. Merci.
Honorable député de Gatineau.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Le gouvernement s'est engagé à protéger l'intégrité du régime fiscal canadien en mettant l'accent sur la lutte contre l'évasion fiscale et l'évitement fiscal international. Est-ce que la ministre du Revenu national pourrait informer cette Chambre de nouveaux moyens mis en place pour respecter cet engagement? Merci.
L'honorable ministre du Revenu national.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et merci à mon collègue pour cette importante question. J'ai le plaisir d'annoncer que j'ai signé hier une déclaration commune avec la Suisse exprimant l'intention de nos deux pays de participer à l'échange automatique de renseignements relatifs aux comptes financiers. Ces renseignements permettront d'améliorer la capacité du Canada à repérer et à traiter les cas d'évasion fiscale, à assurer le respect des règles fiscales et à protéger l'intégrité du régime fiscal canadien.
The honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, forestry is one of the largest employers in my riding with lumber mills in West Kelowna, Princeton, and Merritt. And these businesses and their employees all support free trade. And now the Forest Products Association of Canada has come out in favor of the Trans-Pacific Partnership and supports its ratification. Now, the TPP is great for British Columbia. When will the federal Liberals realize they've hit peak consultation, get off the fence, and support jobs in British Columbia?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question. We have begun consultations from the time in which we were elected. The important date is ratification, Mr. Speaker. We are going to look at this treaty carefully. We're going to look at this treaty through Parliament and through parliamentary committees. We're going to continue to consult Canadians until we know we have the evidence necessary to make the right decision that will benefit not just the forestry industry, obviously, but also all Canadians from coast to coast to coast.
The honourable member for Brampton East.
Mr. Speaker, throughout the 11-week campaign, many constituents in Brampton East were excited about the Canada Child Benefit. Indeed, they appreciated that it was a targeted, tax-free benefit that was simple and easy to understand, and that millionaires would no longer be receiving checks. Can the Parliamentary Secretary for Finance please update this House on his commitment for Canadians all across this nation to receive the Canada Child Benefit?
Parliamentary Secretary for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for his good question. In Budget 2016, Mr. Speaker, our government will introduce the Canada Child Benefit, a tax-free monthly benefit to families with children. Mr. Speaker, the CCB will ensure that the maximum help is provided to those families who need it most. We anticipate that payments could start flowing in July of this year, Mr. Speaker. At that point, 9 families out of 10 will be better off with our plan, Mr. Speaker. That plan is going to help to lift hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty, will help families in Brantons and in my riding.
The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Liberal government claims they want to consult broadly with Canadians and that they want to be fact and science-based in their approach. Why then, in the 107 days the Liberals have been in office, has there been zero consultation with the science critics on the climate change initiatives, the pipeline environmental review process changes, and the input for science spending for the upcoming budget?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to say that science-based and evidence-based approach is fundamental to what we do. Very shortly after we formed the government, the Prime Minister hosted our scientists to talk exactly about climate change, a topic that the government, the party opposite, doesn't seem to like to do. We brought our scientists forward, they've talked about science, and all of our policies are based on science and evidence. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable député de Joliette.
Monsieur le Président, les autorités américaines prennent leur temps pour accorder la certification à la série C de Bombardier. D'ici là, l'argent n'entre pas et l'entreprise, tout comme ses fournisseurs, commencent à être à court de liquidités. L'aéronautique est au Québec, ce que l'automobile est à l'Ontario. Et c'est une industrie de pointe, un secteur d'avenir. Monsieur le Président, comment se fait-il que le gouvernement se montre si empressé pour débloquer de l'argent en Alberta et si lent pour le fleuron de l'économie québécoise?
Secrétaire parlementaire du développement économique.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Notre gouvernement a entrepris des discussions avec Bombardier, avec le gouvernement du Canada, avec le gouvernement du Québec, je devrais dire, pour faire le point sur l'entreprise et sur ses priorités. Nous croyons que tout investissement dans cette entreprise, tout investissement fédéral devrait être appuyé par une prestation d'affaires solide. Mais on reconnaît, Monsieur le Président, puis j'aimerais saluer le membre, que l'industrie aérospatiale est une industrie très importante qui est axée sur l'exportation, qui emploie plus que 180 000 Canadiens, et c'est très important.
L'honorable député de Montcalm.
Monsieur le Président, la question de mon collègue était claire. Quand ce gouvernement va-t-il intervenir? L'aérospatiale, 40 000 emplois dans 200 entreprises de pointe au Québec, Monsieur le Président. Ça fait presque un an que Bombardier a fait savoir qu'elle pourrait avoir besoin d'une ligne de crédit pour patienter jusqu'à ce qu'elle obtienne sa certification. La question est simple. Quand, Monsieur le Président, va-t-on défendre l'économie du Québec? Quand va-t-on agir dans ce dossier?
Secrétaire parlementaire.
Monsieur le Président, comme j'ai dit à mon honorable collègue de l'autre côté, c'est qu'on reconnaît très bien que l'industrie aérospatiale est très importante et que Bombardier est un fleuron parmi les entreprises canadiennes. On a entrepris des discussions avec la compagnie, avec le gouvernement du Québec, et on va prendre des décisions en temps opportun.
Honorable député de la Pointe-Lille.
Monsieur le Président, en infrastructure, ce sont Québec et les municipalités qui ramassent la facture, alors que la marge de manœuvre financière est à Ottawa. Les grandes villes québécoises réclament depuis longtemps que le fédéral fasse sa juste part en dépenses d'infrastructure. Aujourd'hui, le premier ministre leur a présenté le menu, mais on leur a encore une fois servi des assiettes vides, Monsieur le Président. Sachant qu'au Québec, et particulièrement dans l'Est de Montréal, les besoins en matière d'infrastructure sont criants, est-ce que le gouvernement s'engage à prendre en charge 50 des dépenses totales?
L'honorable ministre des Transports.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je peux assurer mon collègue qu'on travaille très fort pour la question des infrastructures au Québec. En fait, mon collègue, le ministre des Infrastructures et des Collectivités, a rencontré le premier ministre du Québec. On a annoncé durant l'élection qu'on investirait de façon majeure dans les infrastructures à travers le Canada pour les 10 prochaines années. Nous avons pris cet engagement. On sait que ça va stimuler l'économie. On sait que c'est bon pour le Québec, c'est bon pour le Canada, et on va garder notre promesse. Merci.
This will conclude question period for today.